And you realize what the method of presenting it is also going to make an impact. Like, sure, you could write a 20-page document in Word that is amazing, right? But no one's going to read it. Like, I mean, they're just not going to. It's like if you just read it to them, it's not like. But if you boil that down into the 10 punchiest things about that 20-page pitch, and you have an image that support that idea, if that kind of pitch, like with the right kind of imagery, is, I guess I started learning how to do that pretty early, but it is a craft.
That was Chris Barrett, game director at Bungie, game directing the new Marathon game, talking about how to get an idea off the ground. Really interesting part of the conversation.
Yeah, and you sound really good too now, Alex.
Now that I've actually turned my microphone on.
It's
hello.
like, we went from street recording to like NPR. Welcome.
We haven't even done 20 of these yet, so we're still learning.
It's awesome.
We're still learning.
I'm just jabbing at you. I'm just jabbing.
You have something on your mind, don't you, Aaron?
No, yeah. When we were talking,
are you just filled with coffee at this point?
No, I'm not. It's my second cup. It's a big cup though. It's my Charizard cup, which is the biggest one I have. Yeah. After we recorded, I was like, hey, I kind of know. I bet you I know, and I don't know, Chris, if you're listening. I don't know you, but. Alex goes,
what are you talking about? You know him. You just spent an hour with him.
I did. Okay, to some extent. But I could tell he's the kind of guy, because when you go into, like, what he does, and I've been in those rooms before, and everyone that's in that room is like, you got to have a mindset to handle the personalities in the room. There's a lot of strong personalities when you get up to, like, leadership positions, You know what I mean? And being able to you know what I mean?
You kind of got to be steady.
Hard.
You kind of have
smart.
Yeah.
Emotions
calm.
under control.
Control.
Like, man, like you could tell that he has honed that skill.
Are you trying to say that he's a cool cat?
Yeah, he's cool. I hope he thinks I'm cool.
Yeah, but you.
But it's like
I'll ask him.
Oh,
I'll ask him what he thinks.
No, hold on. But seriously, I could tell. I'm like, when we were talking. Because he's thinking about, there's a million.
Don't tell everybody
I'm
your
not
thoughts.
Oh, that's right.
You gotta wait for the post for that. Yeah.
Oh, the post. Okay, sorry. But anyways, I was very impressed. It's kind of the thing, and he kind of just casually, okay, whatever, the post, but the art stuff is what really got me excited. We didn't talk about too much about art, but anyways,
it's no random accident or surprise that the Destiny franchise has such a distinct and gorgeous look to it.
Yeah, that's totally a post. I thought we were moving on, dude. We're doing post.
We are. All right, here's something I'm excited about. We have a new partner. We are partnering with. Are you ready?
Oh, I know who it is.
Oh, but pretend you don't, because
okay. Well, who is it? Know. Tell me, Alex.
We're partnering with the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, and I am so excited about this because I reached out to Dr. Jake and Vela a couple months ago because I had kind of fallen out of touch with the IGDA a little bit, but it was so formative for me coming into the industry. When we started Wide Load in Chicago, there's always been a game scene in Chicago, and we talk about it all the time. How I got to meet a lot of other developers was really through the IGDA, promoting community, promoting fair play, promoting access, amplifying the voice of those whose voices need amplification. All great things about the IGDA.
Like just straight up networking.
Yeah, this is how I met John Vignacchi. So Johnny V, if you're listening, we're coming for you, buddy. Who's now runs third-party dev for Nintendo. And that Johnny V's a Chicago guy, came out of Midway. Nice. Any case,
one more thing. Patrick Moran, our very own Patrick Moran at Look North. He has the biggest
he runs
one,
that
right?
IGDA chapter. Yeah, and it's international, etc. So excited to be partnering. We'll have a discount code for joining the IGDA. You'll be able to listen to our episodes through the IGDA, and if you're running an IGDA chapter, we would love to come and visit. It's very exciting for us. So yeah, what else is happening?
You're in Chicago.
I am.
When this episode comes out, I'm in Indianapolis, I think, at Gen Con.
What are you doing out at Gen Con?
I was originally, when I booked the trip to Gen Con, I was, this is post EA shutdown. So I was like, hey, I've been working on this deck for a very long time, and the deck has a game in it, and was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to Gen Con and show it to some people. Just on the casual, like comic book classic style, not like booking meetings with anybody or anything like that. Just like, hey, check out this game I'm working on. Or that was the idea back then.
Yeah.
Before all the stuff that we have going on, before the fourth curtain too, before all that. And that's what I was originally going to go for. And then since everything's been going on, now I'm just kind of going to go for fun. I might show it maybe, like I'll take some decks with me maybe. I don't know.
You should. You should. You by the way, you don't give yourself enough credit for what you've done with your Digo decks in that game in particular. I think it's really cool.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Have you shared any details with like publicly about what it is?
Yeah, I did a how to play. So that's the interesting thing about that industry, right? So because I do the playing card stuff mostly, and I do card games a lot, but I never really like try to get out there with that. And I did a card game, a how to play video, and I put it on Reddit, and the how to play community was like, this sucks. And it was awesome. I'm so glad they did that. They're like, you don't do how to play. Yeah. But listen, this is like the best thing that could have happened, because all of their feedback, they wrote me like hundreds of words, like huge feedback. Like, when you do a how to play video, you do it like this. You don't do this. You don't do that. You know what I'm saying? And at first I was like, I was hurt. I was like, dude, what a bunch of jerks. And then I was like, wait a second. No, that's the best thing that could happen to you. Like, they're telling you how you can get better, in their community. So at first I was like, oh, what a bunch of jags. And then I was like, I took it to heart, man. And I went back. And I think that's something that, going back to what I was saying earlier, like being able to be in a room with a lot of personalities like that happens a lot. Being able to handle that, like when people are like rough with you or honest, it could be very hard at times. And I think that's the kind of personality that I've grown over the years, where like and as an artist, you have to, like, they're gonna say this sucks.
Yes.
And how you handle that. Like, people quit. Like, oh, this is the worst character I've ever seen. They go home, they cry, and they delete Photoshop. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, don't do that. So that's what I took. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really nice how to play video. I'm going to spend time on it. I have no deadline, because this is a hobby project, so I'm not like sweating it. You know what I mean? And then I'm going to take their feedback. So thank you, people from Reddit.
That's really good advice. Sometimes it's really hard to hear feedback, but that's how you get better.
That's how you grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you listen, and you sort it, and you take it, and it's like It's like, maybe.
So find yourself a safe way to go get some feedback, so that you can get that muscle memory for hearing what's wrong, or hearing what people don't like. All right, well, let's roll our conversation with Christopher Barrett.
It's a good one.
For me, it was a little bit of a walk down memory lane, and a chance to hear from one of the greats in our industry.
Yeah, really cool stuff. Leveling up your game dev career but not sure where to start?
Or maybe you're trying to break into the industry, looking to connect with other people who are making games.
Consider joining the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA, the world's largest nonprofit, member-driven professional association serving all individuals who create games.
I was in the IGDA in Chicago, met a lot of people. Great way to network.
The IGDA exists to support and empower game developers around the world in achieving fulfilling and sustainable careers.
Discounts,
educational and advocacy-based resources,
mentorship,
and solidarity across 160-plus chapters.
To join the IGDA, visit igda.org/membership and use the code IGDA 4th Curtain 15, no spaces there,
to get 15% off 1- and 2-year memberships, as well as a student membership.
Joining the IGDA is a great move for your career, and as a nonprofit supporting everyone making games, it's a great move for the whole community. Join today. Okay, everybody, today we have a very special guest on the program. Christopher Barrett, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the longest tenured developers at Bungie. Is that true? Are you must be like, is there something beyond grizzled ancients now?
Disembodied souls, I think, is what they call us. Yeah.
What do you get after the sword? For people that don't, he has a sword in the background right now that he got for 15 years.
At 20, you get a weapon replica. We'll see what's at
Ooh.
25. I'm not sure. I got a weapon called Lord of Wolves from Destiny. It's in my basement. It's pretty cool.
Is that the gold gun? It's like a pistol, right?
No, you're thinking of the last word, maybe. It's like the fallen exotic weapon. It's got like little spikes. It's came out during House of Wolves.
And you got your start. Christopher got to start back in the myth days.
Did.
I would say you were a walk-on modder.
I was, yeah.
We had Jamie on
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, but he was talking about his site, Myth Grimoire. I don't know if you were part of that community.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you guys both joined sort of around the same time-ish.
Yeah, he was a little before me. Yep.
Yeah.
Which I have a great story of. I tell the story of joining Bungie. Like, it's such a wacky story, but I'm happy to get into that at any point.
Yes, I want to hear that. Let me finish your intro, because you joined, and then I think you've worked on every Halo game. You were the art director on the first Destiny, which I would say is probably one of the stylish games ever.
It's a very good game.
I would call it a tour de force in art direction.
Very inspirational.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Game director of Destiny 2. And when I was there, and I think the industry in general didn't really have the title game director. So would love to hear how you guys are approaching that role today.
Technically, I was game director post Destiny 2 because I was working on the expansions of Destiny 1. And so once Destiny 2 shipped, I took over as game director.
Got it.
I don't want people upset at me. Yeah. Actually, the entire team directed the game.
I usually say I've got about a 75 to 80% accuracy rate on my introductions. Par for the course. Currently game director on the game that I think I am the most excited about, the game that I have been looking forward to more than probably anything in a long time, which is the new Marathon game, which you guys are working on.
Which you heard about for the first time when it was announced.
Of course.
Don't know anything about Marathon. Yeah.
Exactly. Chris, welcome to the show. So great to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
It's been a long, long time.
Yeah. How's the team? I think I probably know 1% of the team now because the team is so freaking huge.
Me too. I know 2%, maybe. Gosh, you know what? It's growing all the time. And since we've announced Marathon, it just the applications are just, flooding in. It's just such a good moment for recruiting and whatever. But I want to say it's between 1,500 and 2,000. Maybe it's over that now. I don't know. Something like that. I haven't checked lately, but yeah, there's a lot of people. And I think it's even amazing. Yeah, there's a big percentage remote as well too now. So
I'm super proud of all the stuff that you guys, Bungie, has been doing, and just a lot of there's just so much good virtuous press that I see, particularly cracking down on basically hate crimes against people in the studio. I think that was amazing to see happen.
Yep.
And just all the good that comes out of the foundation and the support for work from anywhere, which you guys are always talking about. So how much of the studio is remote these days?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I'm not sure. I think it fluctuates, and I think maybe 25% or 20% or something like that at this point.
Do y'all do hybrid too?
Yep. So basically, we just opened had the grand opening of the new studio in Bellevue, and it's not quite finished yet, but we had the big reveal. So basically, you have the option of working full time at the office, hybrid, or fully remote. So it's kind of the best of all worlds. And like you said, I totally agree. It's watching Bungie change over the past 23 years has been, just witnessing it all and seeing us go from that, little place in Chicago to, what it is now. And it's just it's evolved so much, and honestly, it's a testament to, how great of a place it really is to work, having, stayed there for 23 years, right? It's just, it's such a supportive place, and all the causes that we're speak out against when a lot of other studios won't. Yeah, it's really pretty proud place to work, I guess. So.
Being on the outside now and looking at it, I totally agree with that. 23 years. Actually, somebody on our Discord for the show, somebody posted a video. It was like a little tour of the River North office that we had, and I can't remember who was filming it, but I was in it, and I walk into I don't know if you remember the Myth 2 room.
Mm-hmm. I worked in there.
And there is the camera pans around. to a young you in the corner. You turn around, kind of wave, and that's it. It's like 4 frames.
Yep, I've seen it.
Yeah, so that must have been right around when you started.
Yeah, because I was only there a couple months, I think. I started in like November 99. Yeah, November 99.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to hear the story of like how you joined, and tell the Jamie story, because I'm sure that's going to be hilarious. But I remember was that you and Bertone were working on, was it called Chimera? It was like a myth mod, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I think if do I remember right? Was it called Myth Chimera? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And every once in a while, and this has been true throughout my career at all the studios I've been at. Every once in a while, like a group of artists like meet somebody, see somebody's work, and they'll get super excited. And it's very rare because for some reason, the artists usually, I think, like to critique. I don't know, maybe. But they were so excited about you.
Me?
And yes, you. Yeah, and that was, I think we all got very excited about what you and Bertone were doing. And that is my memory of sort of how we got introduced to you, was through some of our artists seeing what you were doing and being like, you guys got to check this out.
So wait. So I didn't play Myth. Sorry, Alex.
All right, get out of here then.
Second best game of all time. That's on my list.
Wait, hold on a second. Are we going to hear the first? What's your number one?
My number one is Dark Age of Camelot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm happy to talk. We'll talk the whole podcast about Dark Age of Camelot if you want.
So I wanted to ask, I know in that era that some games had these like modding tools, like Doom 2 had that map editor, and you could make your own maps and stuff, and then you'd be on the BBS sites, and then you could like upload and download the games or the maps. And I wanted to ask, is that what Myth had? And also, Chris, are you more of an artist? Like, where are you? Because you've done like what? So how do you identify like in that way?
So that's a 2-part question. So one, Myth absolutely did not have any modding tools whatsoever in the beginning. Like literally, I was hex editing like the source file, like the data files of Myth to figure out how to import like color maps into the game, and the community was figuring out which bits to flip, and whether if you change this Z to an R, it turns like a particular unit in like to be able to walk on the cliffs instead. Like it was just. It was so much fun. It was just like hacking Myth to make levels, and then the community actually made most of the tools for Myth 1, if I remember correctly. Like they made all kinds of and then eventually was it Myth 2 that released the actual whole tool set, or
I believe you.
One or the other, yeah. I think so. I think the actual tool set, the official ones came with Myth 2. And the second part of the question was, I'm a giant game nerd. I've been using computers since I was a kid, so I love computers and all of that. But I went to school for art, so I went to art school, and then that's where I kind of learned traditional art, and then got into digital art, through doing things like map modding and using Photoshop and stuff like that. So a lot of my career at Bungie was art and environment art, and then art direction. And then through that, basically a lot of that was sort of creative direction as much as art direction. And that was very much sort of segued easily into game direction. And also I got to work with people very closely with people like Jason Jones, which, obviously is a, great mentor and tutor and all of that. So that was kind of how I made the shift.
Very cool. So I don't know anything about your early days. Where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Burlington, Vermont, in a town called Essex Junction, and my dad worked for IBM, and so there's an IBM plant there, and so that's how I very early got a lot of introduction to, having a PC at home or whatever. And then,
did you have the Peanut?
No, I don't remember
the PC Junior.
Oh no! Some of my friends said
didn't they call it? they call it Peanut? Wasn't the IBM PC Junior the Peanut? We had this conversation.
That might have been a nickname for it. I don't think it was
Yes.
officially the Peanut. Maybe.
Maybe I could be remembering it wrong. I'm old. My memory's
So you
not
had-
so good. But you had an IBM PC, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like an AT or whatever it was at the time,
Yeah.
whatever. And then, I had a 286-8 in my bedroom when I was a kid. And
Ooh.
there's a whole story there, too, if you're ever, like, I ran a 2-line bulletin board system out of my bedroom, and I was in the biggest software piracy group in the world. It was a whole, like, life of crime as a child. It was amazing.
You know what's weird? I didn't think it as a crime when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so hard to get the games, and it's like, how do you get them? And how do you find out about games?
Yeah.
Right? And then that's where the whole shareware stuff came out. Like, it was
Yep.
easier to get, like, the shareware stuff.
Yep.
It's weird. Now I can see it as a crime. It's like, oh, yeah, that's
you know
stealing.
better now.
Yeah.
Aaron?
Oh,
Yeah, well,
That you're like,
Well, I wanted the game, and it was like there was no way to get it. You know, like I couldn't drive to the store. Like it was so much easier to just go to your friend's house and you'd be like, "Dude, have you seen this game, Rise of the Triad? It's awesome!" And then like, yeah, those were the best. What was the name of it? Did you have a cool name like Dark Lord Dungeon?
Yes.
yes.
It was called Spirit's Crypt. Is what it was called.
Oh yeah, got it. That was awesome. Yeah.
Spirit's Crypt.
It was
Yeah,
always
okay.
like Dungeon Crypt, like
Yep.
yeah.
Aaron, write that down. You gotta do something like that. Spirit's Crypt.
Yeah. And did you have ASCII art? Do you have like
Oh,
a
yeah.
cool-
No, I-
yeah.
I'm registering the URL right now. You're right.
I don't
I
have
want to
that.
see what the landing page. That's how you knew it was a good one too. If you'd like the landing page, if it was like an awesome ASCII art image.
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
yes,
So,
it's gonna be good stuff.
I was actually so how I got into it was in the scene of, I guess, early art for me was I made, so there's ASCII art, which is like all just like text characters, and then there's ANSI art, which is like the colored blocks, but they, bulletin boards use both. So there was a whole scene of ANSI artists, and they would do board like logos and ads and stuff like that for bulletin boards. And so that kind of how I got into the scene, I guess. So there's all kinds of artwork that you can still see on you can just look it up online and see all like ANSI art and bulletin board logos that I made. People have archived and collected all that stuff over the years. So you can see my boards. Like, you can type in Spirit's
I'm
Crypt
gonna
with a
Google
Y.
That sounds like an NFT collection. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So you grew up. You had technology in the house.
Yep.
You were total hacker's lord, hacker.
Yep.
And then I'm guessing in high school you were probably doodling and drawing characters in your notebook instead of taking notes in math and physics class and stuff, right? So you went to art school. Is that what
Yeah,
happened?
a little bit. Like I didn't doodle or draw that much, honestly. I got into computer art pretty early because my high school had Macs in the
Oh, wow.
art studio or whatever. So I started doing digital art. I also started working at a educational software company when I was 13. So my cousin worked at a software company, and he was like, "Oh, you do art and whatever." So he was like, "You should come work with us." And so I worked full time all through high school, every 40 hours a week at this software company doing animation and art.
That's amazing. That's illegal.
Yeah.
Child labor.
I think that's child
Yeah,
labor.
that's child
It
labor.
probably was, but yeah. So
Okay,
I mean,
so hold on a second. So you haven't graduated high school yet, and you're already breaking labor law and
A digital artist.
I broke another
copyright
one.
law.
I worked at Ben and Jerry's, this first Ben and Jerry's franchise, because obviously Vermont, it's where Ben and Jerry's originated. So I worked at the second Ben and Jerry's when I was 11, and I would be working by myself, and I would close the shop and clean and do all the paperwork. Like I would do all the
Oh my
accounting.
goodness.
When I was
That's
11, I
amazing.
swear.
11?
I swear. Yep. And I'd work till 9 and close the place. All of that is completely illegal. Like working alone, like working till
Wow.
9.
You're totally that kid that would buy beer for everyone when you were like 16.
I don't know. I don't know what I didn't like. They were just exploiting kids. It had nothing to do.
Okay.
Then, by the way, it was a franchise. I'm going to get in trouble. Ben and Jerry or something. But no, they got in trouble. They got reported.
No.
What was an angry employee reported them for? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I started grinding early.
They'll name a flavor after
Yeah.
you.
Dude, that totally builds character, though.
Yeah, exactly. That
You
must
know?
have imparted some foundational formative skills,
Yeah.
early
It
on.
did.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So anyway, so I kind of knew I wanted to get into art because my brother was into art, and he went to school for art at UVM. And so I took a Votech class, not having any idea what I was going to do in life or that I was going to be an art, go to art school or anything. But I went to, there was a Votech class at another school, and I took 2 years of that. So afternoons I would just go, and it was like all about learning about art from a teacher, professor who was went to RISD, and I learned so much, and it was amazing. I just learned all about typography and illustration and graphic design, like just fundamental kind of stuff. And so she was the one who suggested that I apply to art school. And I was like, okay, maybe, sure. So I ended up, and she recommended which school that I should apply to. And so I just applied to one school, and most of my portfolio, honestly, was the digital art I did for the software company, because I was really good at pixel art at the time. And there were sort of, photorealistic kind of renderings of cows and cars and whatever. So anyway, that got me in. And so I applied to one school, and then I packed up and moved to Brooklyn, New York from Vermont, which is a whole culture shock, I'll tell you. Oh my God.
Dude, so that was the 80s then?
No,
Early
90s. Yeah, 90s.
Early
Yeah.
90s?
I think I started in 94 at Pratt. Yeah, in Brooklyn.
That was like peak Beastie Boys, too.
Oh yeah, yep. I used to run into I ran into Chris Rock at the Bodega. Spike Lee's sister used to go to the Blockbuster. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So art school, and then did you work at all between there and when we discovered each other, or
A little. I did a little freelance work, and then I worked, which was awful. I realized I did not want to be a freelance illustrator in any way whatsoever. That's a hard gig, like just not knowing when the next job's coming, and illustration. When we had the career services. I have so many funny stories about game. Here's two quick ones, which are funny. One, they told us in the career service what we could expect to make when we graduate, and because of my major being illustration, and they said $18,000 a year, and I was like, okay, that doesn't even cover my yearly tuition. It was just like, oh no, what have I done? And then the other one, because I love games, is just thinking about my early career. LucasArts came and were interviewing students for potential jobs at LucasArts. And so I went in with my portfolio, and I was so excited about games, and I wanted to do all this stuff and change how games are made. And I had all these ideas, and apparently I went in and they hated me. They were like, who is this guy? He's so full of himself. He's he's never going to work in games. And I got banned from ever at Pratt from when I was there from interviewing with any more companies, because they didn't they thought I was such a jerk or something, which I had no idea of. Right. And so I think
you got canceled. That's
I did. And so I look back at that now, and I'm like, ha ha ha, look what I showed you guys, but I just was excited.
You should mail a copy of every title you've ever worked on.
I loved LucasArts games too, so I think I was just trying to say something like 2D point-and-click adventure games aren't the future or something like that, right? Which, and these guys were 60 and had been worked on, Monkey Island 1 and all this stuff. So I think they were just like, who's this uppity kid? Get out of here.
Yeah. What do you know about the future?
Yeah, exactly.
That's very funny.
So anyway, then I started in my senior year in college, started playing Myth. And was just blown away, the most amazing, because I had a Mac because I'm at art school, and so there weren't so many games to play on the Mac.
Right.
I think there was Unreal had come out for it, and then there was Myth, and so I just no-lifed it. I no-lifed Myth first before getting into modding it, and then I make up a different number every time, but I'm pretty sure I was in the 20s in the world for PvP, whatever it was called. I don't know what the on BungieNet. So I played a lot of it, multiplayer. And then I started getting into modding and stuff like that. So that's how I wrote, because I created a group called Badlands, which was like making myth maps basically. And so I would do color maps, make my own maps, and they weren't particularly great designs necessarily, but they looked really good. And so I got a lot of attention that way. And I wrote in my bio on BungieNet, just you can put a little profile, and I said something like, "Hey, I'm really great. Make whatever. I'm really great. I make cool mod, like whatever, like Bungie, you should hire me," or something like that, right? And so Max Hoberman at some point saw some of my maps and like whatever, and ended up looking at my profile on BungieNet, and he saw that message. And so I got an email out of the blue from Max Hoberman, and who said like, "Hey, I saw your maps. You're really talented. Whatever. I see you do, website." Oh, because I forgot. I was working at a print and web agency in New York City for a couple of years, and so I was making websites and doing Adidas websites and stuff like that. So I was doing pretty well. Like I was doing good. But I got the email from Max Hoberman out of nowhere, and it was like, "Hey, we have a job opening, and on the web team. Would you be interested?" And I just shit myself. I was like, "Oh my god, like I could possibly go work for Bungie." And so I was very excited, but I was doing really well in New York, so I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like that seems like such a big move. I have no idea." It's like completely switching careers, but I went for it, and then flew out to Chicago and was picked up at the airport by you, Alex. I don't know if you remember that. You had a BMW, I think. I think you had a BMW.
Oh, a little show off, huh? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just remember it, and you got
silver, like all the trimmings.
No, it was but I just remember that because it was such an interesting moment, like the guy who founded the company coming to pick you up at the airport or whatever, which was nice.
Personal service.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd pick you up at the airport anytime, Chris. You want to come out and visit? I'll pick you up. I don't have a BMW anymore.
You put me at the hotel. Yeah, it's a Porsche. And so you dropped me off at the hotel, whatever. But I went in, and it was really neat. It was cool. It was cool meeting all the people and whatever. But it was also like, wow, this is so different. Like there were cots like lined up behind the marketing team, and like I was just like, oh, what's going on here? Oh yeah, like just like sleep overnight cots, and like you weren't allowed to go into the Halo room. Like if you peek in the door, and like everybody turns and is like, who's this? And Jason looks like he's mad. Like it was just like very serious. But then the other parts of the city weren't. Like the Myth 2 room was like just totally different vibe, and then the web team and the marketing team were really fun. So I had a great time. We ate on the floor. We ate whatever the Chinese food place or Thai place that you guys always get food.
Ming Choi. Ming Choi was the Chinese place.
Shout out to Ming Choi.
So Max and I would get that all the time. Yeah.
So it was fun. Meeting everybody was fun, and then I did a test, which was that Max was like, "Hey, can you design the Myth 2 website?" And I was like, because Myth 2 is coming out, whatever. And I was like, okay, sure. So I basically got in Photoshop and mocked up the whole, Myth 2 website, which ended up being used. I don't know if I got there was on the contract somewhere it said any test that you take at Bungie, we own. I don't know. It was funny. I was honored at the time. Whatever. I think it's too late. There's too many companies. It's changed hands too many times to be able to prosecute.
I can't remember that far.
That was
back.
the thing, though. The test. That was a thing in the industry for a while. Hey, we want you to do an animation test. All right.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, that's and, you don't get the gig, and then your like attack animations are in the game. Like, wait a second.
Yeah, that's not okay. That's not okay.
So then, so Max was like, happy, like, so you guys wanted to hire me for the web position, so you brought me into your office and like gave me the like offer, and I was just, I was very excited, whatever. And totally makes sense in retrospect. Like I was doing really well. Web design and like the industry was huge at the time. It was like before the big .com kind of bust or whatever that happened. So
yeah, right.
I was doing really well in New York. It totally makes sense, the offer from a level 1 entry level like web position at a studio of the size. But I was just the offer. I just I couldn't do it. I was just like, oh, I want to work here. This could be my in games. I was just like, I can't, like, it was like much less than I could take, and I was like, oh, I just wish I could. And then, you offered me more to try and get, because I knew, you wanted me to come, and I was like, but I couldn't do it. So I had to say no, and I was crushed. And so, I went, and the wackiest part of the story. So because I made maps and stuff, I went and was talking to the Myth 2 team, and I think it was Tunser. At the time, he was the lead of Myth 2. And so I was talking to him, and he was like talking to me about the status of, Myth 2, and how, they had done a lot of the single player campaign, but they hadn't really started on the multiplayer, maps and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I make maps. Like, I make this group called Badlands. And so I showed him the website, and I showed him some of the multiplayer maps. Somehow, I don't know what happened. I can't remember exactly. I left. I went home to New York with, I don't know if we actually had a contract yet to create the multiplayer levels for Myth 2. And so I don't know if you remember that, Alex, but I did that from home at night. I made the multiplayer levels, and so I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just excited to do it, but I worked with Jamie on those, so he helped with a lot of the units and the setup, and I did all the color maps and stuff like that. I was having a blast. That's awesome. Yeah, so I just and then. So that happened. Then once we finished that, I wanted to do more stuff, and then so I pitched Chimera as an expansion to you guys. You guys said yes, and then we actually built that whole thing remote. No one was in person. Nobody knew each other even. We did it over a software called Hotline. You must remember Hotline from the Macs.
Yeah.
That was early Teams
That's right.
beta, basically. It was very early.
Are you working with Paul Bertone at this time to do the multiplayer maps, or did he?
Not yet. So he was Paul Bertone was he was in Badlands, and he did a lot of the ones that were actually well designed, the multiplayer maps.
Yeah, he's a good designer. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I was working on Chimera with Tyson.
Green. That's right, Tyson Green.
Yep, and a couple other people that I'd met in the community or whatever. But yeah, we kind of did that all remote. It was 4 of us or something like that. Just expansion. One guy had some random guy had a what was the Silicon Graphics machine or something.
SGI,
the units were made in 3D and then rendered out. He had one somehow.
Softimage, yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
I don't know how. I just I think to that, how the hell did we ship that? I was working full time, and we actually created a story with art and levels, and you could play it, and it was not terrible. I just have no idea. And that's just been kind of something that's repeated all my career.
It's totally spunk.
It's called hard work and talent.
Well, I guess. Yeah, no,
you have fun doing it, right? You weren't going home and watching movies. You were.
It's the best thing ever. It was so much fun. Yeah, it's the combination of having fun and just perseverance, I guess. But after that, I know Jamie kept trying to get me to come work for Bungie. He was like, "Oh, you got to come. We're working on this new game, and you got to come out, and whatever." And so I just couldn't. It wasn't the right opportunity, and I was just I'm good here. I have a great apartment, and whatever. And then he was like, "Okay, well, you should check this out." And he uploaded a build of Halo to Hotline, my Hotline server.
Hey,
Jamie.
And
you didn't tell me that. You can't do that.
And he did, and this was before Macworld. This was not something anyone had seen, and so I was literally had my Mac, and I was literally driving the Warthog around. It was the one where you could drive the Warthog over the and then you could go inside. There was the building with the holograms and the flags, all that stuff. So I was just oh my god, this is incredible. I have never seen anything like this. This is amazing. I have to work on this. This is so cool. And I also, I had it on I put it on a zip disk, of course, and I brought it into work. So I was showing it to everybody at work.
Oh, no.
Of course. I didn't have an NDA, I don't think. I never signed an NDA.
Again, what was it called? What was the name of the crypt?
Of Spirits. No, this was far beyond that. No.
You opened the crypt again. It's the crypt is back, baby.
Yes. So I was responsible with it. I didn't let anyone have it or give it to anyone. I just had it. And so it's I'm intrigued or whatever. And then the last thing that happened was Jason called me on the phone. Out of nowhere. It's like, hey, you want to talk? I was like, okay. And we just talked for like 2 hours on the phone. And I was just, I'd never really talked to him before. And so he was just, it was just a great conversation. He's obviously amazing. Like he's such a, creative talent. And he convinced me, he was like, okay, you should come to, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so then I made plans to come to Bungie and made the plunge. And obviously it's been, 23 years of staying there. So right. And it was the right decision. I think it's been an amazing career. And so
that's awesome. All right. So tell us everything, the plot, the story, all the game mechanics for the new marathon. I'm kidding.
Is there ANSI art in it? Are you doing anything cool like that? Any like retro
There
art?
might be. I won't say that there isn't.
One request, which is, if you remember Doug Zartman, he's our community manager for the show. He's ready to get called up to do some voice acting.
You know what? Believe it or not, he contacted me on LinkedIn and has already asked. He has already asked. And I said, sure, why not? So,
all right, he's ready to go. So yeah, get him in the booth. That'd be awesome. The studio has changed so much. It's gone through, I'm guessing, many stages and evolutions.
It's never dull. Never dull at Bungie.
Yeah.
There's always something happening. Something big, something wacky happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, how was the initial reception for Destiny when that came out, and how that evolved, and the relationship with Activision and all of that?
Oh my gosh. So, I did like a lot of that sort of higher level kind of politics and the working between the Activision and Bungie. Like, well, I wasn't too exposed to at the time. Much more later because I was on the board of directors at the past, I don't know how many, 5 years or something like that. Not anymore, but pre Sony. So I mostly got to kind of see just secondhand from from some of the leadership, and also when I would work with Activision some. The reception, I mean, I killed myself on it. I mean, in a good way. Like, I'm not saying like I voluntarily like put a lot of like work into that game. Like, I think I started working on it in 2007. So like during ODST, I actually went up and started working with Jason on Destiny. So there was me, Jason, and Shikai were the only people working on it at the time. And then so I worked on that, since 2007 or 8 to 2014 when it shipped. So that was a long process. It was like a third person fantasy game at first. It was like co-op. Like, I mean, it just went through multiple changes and genres. And we were trying to figure out, it was like, third person for a while, it was first person. It was amazing to work on because I got to like really be, an art director in full for the first time and had the full confidence and worked really well with Jason. So that was
the art in that game is awesome. Nice job.
Well, I was lucky. I had I'm not just saying this. Like, I got to work with an amazing team. Like, the concept artists that I was able to get to work on that game are like the best in the industry. Like, I mean, Jamie Jones, Dorje Bellbrook, like Joe Cross, like, I mean, there's a lot of amazing artists. So like, I give them as much credit as I might, take, but
it was really fresh when it came out.
Like,
what is this?
Yeah, it was,
it's tickling my eye.
It was just interesting. Like, it was like, how do we take sci-fi? How do we make something that's futuristic and sci-fi and make it feel like it has history? How do we make it feel like there's
like fantasy art?
Like
cyber witches
and So not only the genre of like the stuff in it, but also the look and feel. Like, nothing was overly shiny. It was all like a little bit subdued in color. Like, there was a little bit of vignetting. Like, it was trying to make it feel slightly aged in a way, so that it didn't feel like that harsh. Like, everybody was going for that realistic realistic rendering and like whatever, just pushing graphics features. And for me, it was like more about the overall frame and making it feel like a painting, but not with like brush strokes and anything like, silly like that. Well, not, you know what I mean? But like, still didn't look like a game, but like, the overall felt more like maybe like almost like an Instagram like camera
an
shot
album
or something. Yeah.
like an album cover from
Yeah.
like the 70s, like
Sure.
a rock.
There was a lot
I
of
mean?
that. Yeah. There was a lot of that.
I love that stuff.
There was an artist, John
Space
Harris. John Harris, who's like was one of the biggest inspirations. If you look, he's like an amazing sci-fi book cover painter or whatever. That was a huge inspiration. I ended up buying before people started learning about him and that his original art was for sale. I bought 2 of his original paintings.
Oh, nice.
It was like only a couple grand or whatever a piece, which is still a lot, but like for original artwork from an amazing artist like is unheard of. So I have 2 of those in my living room, which I'm really proud of.
Awesome.
But okay, so I didn't even answer the question. The
No,
the
it was super
reception
interesting.
of Destiny. You know what? It was tough. Like it was tough for the studio because we knew we made something. I think revolutionary in a lot of ways, like bringing the combination of sort of this living world to consoles, like combining like first person action, fun gameplay mechanics with this sort of MMO elements and RPGs, like that it was social and it had this big world you could explore. Like we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I think we did something, that's incredible. And then to, have it come out and Polygon gives it a lower rating than Barbie Dream Horse or whatever. And you're like, oh, Christ. Like it got a 6, I think. They gave it a 6. Destiny 1. So it was,
Really? I mean, they
Yep.
just, sometimes they do that just to get attention.
Sure,
It's
I
like-
know. But like,
Yeah.
but I think people, I mean, at the time, like,
That's not true. Really?
Yeah,
That sounds harsh.
no, it is. So, I mean, but I understand it. So like, it was, I mean, there was a lot of hype. Like we said things like we're making the next Lord of the Rings and the next next Star Wars, whatever. So, like we said things that like kind of got the hype really up. And then I think this is just being slightly critical in retrospect. It's just like we tried to both make this living world that's cooperative and MMO, but also we're trying to like tell kind of like a story that was like more like a single player campaign at the same time. And it was just like too much. It was trying to do too much. And so having to kind of scramble and like work on the story, towards the end, like there was a lot of like, trying to get that done. And just like people were expecting the Halo like story and we just didn't really deliver that kind of same, single player kind of campaign. And so and that's what most people play, right? When you play for 20 hours and review the game, that's what you really experience. You don't really understand that there's a raid or that there's going to be like how fun strikes are, like what it's going to be like, trying to find the perfect, piece of armor in the, 100th hour. Like they didn't really get, so
Did they
I
update
understand.
the score? Did they do how they do like, oh, there's an update and now we're going to update our 6
I don't know if they did. I mean, it was the kind of thing that gradually, grew. I mean, we continued to learn and like, with each expansion, we kind of like really started to hone in on what was special about the game and like, and that kind of thing. But, it was, we knew we had something great, but Bungie does this great thing where we lean into things. Like if something is, has a bug or something's not working right, like we don't just, go on to the next thing. Like we lean in and try and fix things. Like we try and make things better. Like we listen to the community as much as possible and try. So we just like kept trying to gradually improve over and over and like make the game better and better. So, I think, certainly it took a little bit to get that more broad acclaim, but I mean, there's some people saw it immediately. Like they saw I think the raid was the big turning point. Like once they played Vault of Glass, they were like, oh, this is the potential of a game like this. Like this is unlike any experience I've ever had. And, some people certainly had like, WoW or, MMOs, but like a shooter on console, like people had never had that kind of experience. And so I think
the end game experience stuff.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember driving into a mall here in SoCal and going into a GameStop. It must have been in the lead up before it came out. And Activision, where it's like they were blowing out everything with the marketing. And it was everywhere. I'm looking at everything. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be big. Years and years later, I remember talking to somebody who was there at the launch at Activision. So not with you guys, but on the Activision side. And he made some comment about how, to me, it spoke a lot about the difference in culture from what I know between what I remember at Bungie and what I know about Activision, where it's like, yeah, we always wanted more. I forget exactly the reference that was used. It's like less Star Trek, more Star Wars, like that kind of thing. And so was there ever sort of tension between sort of like creative direction between the two, like as they were investing and going to market and thinking about the IP?
Yeah,
Because you guys controlled the IP, right? You own the IP, controlled the IP, but I imagine since they're investing so much money, they must have had some controls somehow. Part of the conversation.
I think I don't know how much of this is known or not, but it was they basically were like head sort of. They basically like it was kind of we worked together, but they had the final say on like marketing and stuff like that. So, but we had control of the game, and yes, we still own the IP. But as part of the agreement, I mean, they sort of I mean that was their wheelhouse too. Like they just had such a we had what 2-3 people on the marketing team, like right. So like, so it totally makes sense. Well, how much conflict? Yeah, of course. They're all, I mean, between marketing and creatives or game developers and like, there's always some amount of tension, right? Like how, what's gonna appeal to the most people? What's the, whether it's just the marketing or what kind of content's in the game. Like everyone has different opinions or feelings on what's going to make something big and exciting, what players are going to like, and so it's always a tough balance because you want things that are a little bit unique or a little bit strange or interesting or like, kind of have some edges that people haven't seen before, or like you want to do something unique or it's not going to stand out from anything else, right? But if you make it too obscure or too weird or too much of an artistic vision, then it's not going to appeal to, either large enough people or, enough to pay the dev costs of however many, millions you have to pay for the development costs. So, I mean, I think there was, definitely, I mean, they worked on so many big, games like Call of Duty, and like they have a certain way that was successful for them. And so I think it was very easy to imagine, hey, we should market, Destiny similarly, whereas, me as an art director, I'm like, I don't want any characters on the box art. Like, I just want a picture of the, the lone traveler above Earth, and that should be the key art. And they're like, no, which makes sense. Like, people won't understand what kind of game it is. So we need to have Guardians on the cover holding guns, and like, so it makes sense. Like, it's just, but it's like, how do you find the right balance between the two? So, it was and I don't like everyone was doing the best they can, but of course there's always especially with something that big with so much money involved and stakes, like so many people involved, like everyone's just there's always concern or worry that if you mess it up, like it's it's a lot of jobs and a lot of money like down the drain, right? If you really make a bet that big and don't pull it off. So I think we did all right, I think we did all right.
Did fantastic.
Yeah. You're having stakes now.
Yeah.
7 years of development and then operation.
7 years. That's
mm-hmm.
Wow. And then see like the different iterations of it, I'm sure. Do you have y'all ever released any of that stuff? Like it used to be a 4-player co-op, third person.
Some of it, not a lot. I think. I mean, there wasn't a lot to those early days. A lot of those were more conversation, just like really simple mock-up builds and stuff like that. I did a GDC art talk in 2013, 12 or 13 about Destiny. I did it with Joe Staten, and so we sort of introduced the IP of Destiny and talked about all of the origins and some, the character, how their philosophy. But anyway, we revealed some art in there that was like from the fantasy game, I think. So it was like, a giant frog with wizards in a swamp or something like that. So, so there's a bunch of amazing concept art when it was I'm
going to look that up. GDC has been posting all their talks.
Yeah, I think just GDC, Christopher Barrett, I think comes up, or GDC Art Direction, Bungie, Destiny, something.
You guys announced a new marathon, what was that, a couple months ago?
Oh, it's such a blur. Yes, I think so. Yeah, May was it? May? Yeah, May.
Yeah, so has that been bouncing around in people's heads for the last 7 years, or was this one a little quicker to get from, hey, we should do this to...
It was quicker. Yeah, it was quicker than that. But obviously it's been, in development a while. It's been really interesting, just the, not to go too much into it, but obviously I can't, but just bringing back a beloved IP, like, and doing it justice and trying to make something amazing, like, but also, building upon what was from before, and how much do you, innovate, how much do you lean in from the legacy stuff. It's always an interesting, interesting challenge, but I really think we're gonna, do it justice and make something cool. That's as much as I can.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The tea stuff.
People
awesome.
love the art. Apparently, like people love the look. I mean, we were like, I will say, like,
it's fresh.
It was, it's a little bit of a risk to like try something, that new, and kind of, worry people are gonna, like, why doesn't it look exactly like, Craig Mullin's art from 1994? And you're like, well. But no, I think it paid off. People were really psyched about it, and so
I think it looks amazing. Did you art direct that, or you now have an art director working for you who's doing that?
Art director.
How is that relationship? Are you like, you go and I will help you, or are you more involved, less involved? Like, what's that like?
So Joe Cross is the art director. He's amazing. He worked on Destiny for many years. He worked on Destiny 2. He's amazing. He drives all, most of the art and the art direction. Obviously, with my background in art direction, I think we have a really good relationship, and we can sort of help each other, and I understand his language and he understands mine, and so we're able to kind of riff and go back and forth. So I'm more there to just kind of help level up his ideas, and make sure it's working well with the game direction, and get excited when he's doing cool stuff, and when he's trying to do something a little bit edgy or different, I can back him up because I understand where he's trying to go, and like say, no, we should do this. This is amazing. So we have a great relationship. He's a super talented artist. He also worked on Dune, the movie, recently. He worked on the live action Ghost in the Shell. Like, he's just like a really, I
like that movie, the Ghost in the Shell movie.
Those are amazing visual treats, all of those. Like, for our listeners, some of whom are in game, some of whom are not, what do you do? Like game director on a project and I don't know what scale the project, people wise is now at this point in its development, but your day to day, obviously you have an art director who you're working with to establish the look, but what's the rest of your kind of like day to day look like? Yeah,
a lot of it depends on the stage of the project. So obviously, so at one point it was one person on the project, and it was me, and I was trying to figure out what we were going to make and how to pitch it and how to get people excited and all that kind of thing. So it kind of evolved from that. That's a very different day than it is now. Early in a project, it's a lot about momentum, trying to figure out what are the next steps, like trying to solve, like understand what we're building, trying to think through, think ahead to all the problems, trying to get things down on paper, because none of it really is, it's very hard to get that stuff in engine early. So there's a lot of future planning and ideation, and trying to think about all the elements of the game from the creative, and then while we're prototyping certain parts of the game. But basically my role is I'm in charge of all creative on the project, and so that includes game design, art direction, audio, animation, all of that stuff, whereas I have the other person working, Scott Taylor, is in charge of kind of the business side, the people, working on budgets and all of that. He's like the business side of it. So it's like there's kind of a pairing there, and so that's kind of my job. And so I work with people like the art director. I work with people like the World team. I work with the systems team, and we just sort of all of that stuff. And at this point, because the team is grown, and we have people in all the positions kind of spread out, across all the different areas of the game. Now, a lot of it is me making sure there's still a holistic vision, that they all kind of, I can help bridge the gap between all of those different teams, make sure they're all, aligned and working on the same, working in the same direction. I'm also looking at parts of, playing the game and looking at it and giving feedback. A lot of just meetings talking about the current build and where we're at. Yeah, I think it's kind of all over the place. 'Cause I'm working with publishing and marketing also, because this is also not just launching a game; it's about launching this new IP. And so, talking, like, there was a lot of work on the trailer that came out, and so that was a lot of working with marketing and publishing on the look and feel, and who we were going to work with which agency we were going to work with to do the CG part of it, and all that stuff. So I mean, and also like getting a game from that, from beginning to this point where it's, been greenlit and it's gonna come out. A lot of it is not always about the game. It's about working within the studio, like talking to people about what you're trying to make, like building confidence in like your team and your vision, like there's a lot of like, there's so many people and energy and money involved in this. Like a lot of that is just sort of pushing your
selling,
internally selling,
Yeah.
and kind of just like guiding your vision, your thing through the process of like getting out. Because Bungie's never been a two game studio before, right? Like we've always focused on kind of one project, and so that's been a whole adventure.
I think that's super interesting. Like what you're just describing there, like that work that has to happen for an idea to become real, where you energize a whole group of people, you unlock resources to make something happen, you marshal, you synthesize a whole bunch of concepts into some vision. Sometimes I do call that selling, and I think it's a very underappreciated skill. Like it's not really taught, and some people are really good at it. I think you're really good at it, and some people are not good at it, and they wonder. You're good at it, Aaron. You just have so many ideas that you're frustrated.
Aaron, get out of here! Leave the room, dude. We're trying to talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's a really hard skill, though. Like just listening to it, people do take it for granted.
Yeah. How did you get good at that? Where'd you learn that?
I would say it's just been gradually learning over the years. So I did get kind of a pretty quick, just sudden kind of introduction to it when I was doing web design, because I was pitching to companies, like, because it was a small company, and like I was like pitching, we'd have to pitch companies to be able to do their, become their agency of record, get clients. And so, I would have to stand up to people and, sort of talk about the vision of the web design I had worked on and stuff like that. So I got a little bit, I was obviously very nervous at first because I'd never done that before. And so it was just kind of, gradual. And then, doing things like having to stand up in the studio during Destiny and kind of, talk about the art vision of the game, like in front of, 50 artists or what, 100 art, whatever, things like that. You just sort of, or the GDC talk, like you just kind of
get refined.
Yeah.
Like the Lucas Arts thing probably had some refining there too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too far, and then you can bring it back, and that's good enough. And no, it's true, right? It's like you're refining it, like you're trying to
actually to like go back even further. I think art school did a lot of justice for me there, because I wasn't just an illustration degree; it was communications design, and so I was basically. Like some schools really are about craft and like making an amazing illustration or rendering. The school I went to was very much about like creative problem solving. Like how do you, like if you have a client and like they have the need that it's your job to solve that problem for them in whatever way you can. So if all you can do is focus on one particular illustration style, you're not going to be able to solve problems for a client. And so, right, because you're going to just have that one thing in your tool set. And so it was really about how do you learn every possible tool set. If the right thing for a book cover or a movie poster or a graphic design is to look like a 60s, cowboy film image, like you need to be able to like understand that and present that to them as a thing, or it would look like a modernist deconstruction, what just like, or maybe they don't even need a post. Like there's just like a lot of thinking about how do you creative problem solve, and I think that helped because it allowed me to kind of think what problem am I trying to solve. And so in a pitch, like, part of the problem is how do I communicate this thing? How do I, like, what are the most essential parts of it? What are the things that are most relevant for someone to know, or your audience? How do you present that in its best light? How do you make sure you're not like you have the concise enough information where they understand it, but you're not like drowning on in details. Yeah, and that kind of skill set, I think, yeah, just practice and doing it. But yeah, my degree I think helped a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. Like if you put thought into like why you made your decisions, then when you share it with somebody, it's not just, hey, this is my idea, I like it because it's my idea. It's like, hey, this is the thing, and here's why it's like this. And the more that relates to the person you're sharing with, the more they believe.
And you realize what the method of presenting it is also going to make an impact. Like, sure, you could write a 20-page document in Word that is amazing, right? But no one's going to read it. Like, I mean, they're just not going to. It's like if you just read it to them, it's not like. But if you boil that down into the 10 punchiest things about that 20-page pitch, and you have an image that support that idea, and you can just be like, if you can just bang out 2 sentences, like with 10 slides for each slide, and just like, it's this, it's got this and this, and it's exciting, and here's why we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to do it, and also this, like, if that kind of pitch, like with the right kind of imagery is, I guess I started learning how to do that pretty early, but it is a craft. Like, it's a skill.
It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do.
That like 30 seconds you just said there is almost like that's a concise pitch on how to pitch.
Yeah, it is.
And you have to be
That's
excited
awesome.
too. Like, you have to be excited. You can't just, it's funny. Like, ideas, everyone has ideas. Everybody, like, ideas are
Dime a
not
dozen,
unique.
baby.
Dime a dozen. Like, yeah. How do you convince other people that it's a good idea? How do you, like the thing we were talking about earlier, like the selling, how do you how do you nurture an idea to hundreds of people, like building that idea, like in whatever ecosystem you're in, is just, that is half, if not more, of the job of any, game director, game team.
Yeah. And actually the other thing too with that is, like, once you get everyone on board and everyone's like, yeah, this is awesome, let's go. Halfway through the journey, people start to like wake up from that spell and like, wait a second, what are we doing here? And then you have to like reconvince, hey, you tricked us. No, I didn't trick you. Check it out. This is why. And you have to like keep doing that over time.
True, always.
Yeah. Well, once you get the playable, it's helpful.
Yeah.
There's always like that desert. There's that desert between, I sold you on this idea and it's not playable. It's like, is this really good?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Come on. Let's go get ice cream. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have like a minute or two where we got a bunch of questions for you from our Discord?
Okay.
Maybe we could pick let me open it up. Did you play Marathon?
Yes.
The original?
Yes.
Have you played it recently?
Yes.
So there's a question from the audience, which Marathon terminal is your favorite one? All right, we'll skip that one.
Yeah.
We'll skip that one.
I love all of them, and I have looked at...
That's a safe answer, Chris.
There's some funny stuff. Like, I forget all the stuff that, like, Jason and Greg stuck in those terminals. There's some funny stuff. There's some Colony Ship for Sale. There's some good stuff. Yeah. Have you guys called Greg Kirkpatrick at all? He's like, I think he's teaching at Cornell.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, here's actually, I thought, a kind of an interesting question, because you have been through kind of all the eras. Like, you were at Bungie in Chicago when we were independent. Mm-hmm. You were with Microsoft. Independent, and then now with Sony. Mm-hmm. The question was, like, which of those transitions had the biggest impact on you? Like what changed when we went to Seattle, when you guys went independent, and now being with Sony, what changed your life the most?
Gosh, I mean, I will answer, but I also want to say, like, all of those have been interesting. Like, I'm happy that all of them have happened, because it keeps the job interesting. Like if we're just doing the same thing for 23 years, it just gets old. Like, but there's always been a new chapter. There's always been some new exciting thing on the horizon. There's been like, oh my gosh, we're gonna separate from Microsoft, or we're like, we got oh my god, we got to pitch. A year pitching Destiny to different publishers, like, and then finally working with Activision, and then like it's just been this, I guess, just this interesting roller coaster. So they all have been great, or interesting at least, right? They've all been sort of life changing in some way, whether it's just the air of the company, or how we What's also interesting, I will say, is that team and how we work and the culture at Bungie, like, we've always really hung on to that. Like, I would like an outside influence, I think maybe of any of those companies, the most maybe was Microsoft, because we had to work at we actually, our office was inside Microsoft for a while. And then obviously we, had our own building at some point, which kind of went back to that kind of Bungie-ish, kind of culture that felt sort of separate from from our parent companies. But obviously, I think the Microsoft one, right? Like, I think, leaving Microsoft because, it just, Microsoft, I think Microsoft was a great thing for us. Like, like we got to make Halo, like, we got to make a lot of internal changes, I think, and how Microsoft develops games and stuff like that. But obviously, like, getting a chance again to kind of be independent and, forge out in a new territory on something big, especially after Halo. Whatever, there's quotes and Vidocs about how do you follow up Halo, we'll see. But like, that is like, what a challenge. Like, how do you, to some degree we never will, because Halo has been so huge. And, I think that's probably the biggest one, is the Microsoft, just because it felt like I was only independent Bungie for a few months before you came into the room and were like, "Hey guys, we're getting Microsoft is buying us or whatever." But so that was pretty cool, kind of feeling independent and trying to do something new.
Cool. Okay, Chris, thanks for spending a Saturday with us.
Yes, Saturday. He's here on a Saturday, everybody.
You get early morning. You get early morning, Chris. Like, this is the shirt I slept in. Like,
Well, you look great for the early morning, Chris.
Thank you.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for being with us.
Nice meeting you.
Don't be a stranger.
Yeah.
When you get your place all set up out in on the East Coast, let us know.
Absolutely.
We'll come and visit.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Good luck with everything. Good luck with your new studio and everything.
Really looking forward to the new marathon, and don't be shy with the beta keys if you need any help.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy.
Bye-bye.
See you around.
Yeah, what a great time catching up with Chris.
On a Saturday,
and talking
dude.
about,
on a Saturday.
Well, we don't usually do these on a Saturday.
No, we don't.
But, everybody had stuff going on.
Thank you, Chris. If you're listening to this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, wow. That conversation gave me a little bit of feels, because a lot of memories for me, and hearing about how things have evolved and changed, etc. Yeah.
A lot of eras there, too.
Do you say eras or errors?
Eras.
I only made one mistake in the intro, I think.
Did you? I didn't think it was a mistake. It sparked conversation. It was flavor. It was nice. But yeah, so
lots of eras, yes.
Eras. Yeah, and I think it's so crazy, right? Like how our industry has had that many different, and he's been in all of them. He hasn't done mobile. That's the only one, and VR, right? But regardless, like those are peripheral things, not peripheral as an item, but like in your peripheral vision of like your career, like it's going on the side. Yeah, and one of the things he said that really gave me the feels was when he said that he went to Bungie and there were cots in the office. Dude,
that is true, but it was yeah.
That's gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, no, that. Well,
so
I don't
you're
know.
getting all nervous
true?
and sweaty. It's like I think it's a really interesting. I don't look at that as a bad thing. I think it showed that there was an era where there was a lot of hard work being done and a lot of sacrifice being done to like create something. Like a lot of those people doing that loved video games, so they were willing to.
That's true.
That's
true. And I kind of look at it too. Like we were all so young. Like when the company started, I was 20, 21.
Nice.
And and we didn't know anything. We just wanted to do stuff, make stuff happen, and we had very unrealistic views of what career or work life was about.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, that I guess I'll call it ignorance.
It's good though to have that kind of ignorance.
I was gonna say, like it led us to do some things where, like looking in hindsight, we're like, oh, that's not so good. Like we had this. We were very proud of the first T-shirt we ever made, which had the Bungie logo on the front and on the back. It said, "Don't make us kick your ass." That was the slogan on the shirt.
Edgy,
and ass
edgy,
was in red. You know, it's like.
Was it dollar signs too? Like
no, but it could have been. But yeah, but then also that, like you're saying, that ignorance was what made us try things that maybe we wouldn't have tried if we thought about it, for whatever we had.
I think that's
or
good
something.
ignorance.
That was good. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, if you want to do something new, you have to either be really brave or ignorant or some combination. Ignorant in a good way, you know what I mean? Like just not know what pain you're setting yourself up for, and in order to sort of take those risks, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes those things, they can be good and they can be bad. Like you don't want to do that when you go to space, right? When you get on a spaceship, you want to have all your checks and balances, because then you'll die. But it's like, but you also need
I think
that.
you're right, but
you know what I mean?
That's a really interesting example too, because for the longest time, like going to space was like a government endeavor, and if you look at what like SpaceX has been, and I'm not trying to make a commercial for Elon Musk.
We're sponsored by Tesla.
But their approach. They're not doing that, They're not like over engineering stuff like to the 1,000th degree before they try anything. They're like, yeah, we'll launch this thing like 10 times and have it explode. That's fine, because we're going to get it right eventually.
Yeah, and it's their money too. I think with the government, it's like the people's money, right? So they're maybe.
Well, where do you think SpaceX is getting that money from?
Oh, really? I don't know nothing. I think you're right. They are getting subsidies. There is like risk, like, I'm going to get on a giant rocket ship, but then everything is checked. And I think it's weird because I've known guys that have made games or even art, and they spend so much time on it, and they're checking it and redoing it and then throwing it away. And then they never show it to anybody.
Yeah. But let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to Mr. Barrett here. I never heard his story about the Where site he was operating as a teenager. Do you remember what was the name of it again? Do you remember? Because we got to go get that URL. It was. I'll go listen to that. It was something crypt. Yeah, that was pretty good. So good. That was pretty good. And like sort of bringing that all full circle to now he's
to showing Halo to people on a zip drive.
Oh God, yeah, I didn't know that story either. Man, if I knew that story at the time, would not have been happy. But yeah, now running these large teams and motivating creatively, like managing creative and launching new ideas, getting them off the ground, taking everything he learned from his days doing web development, which is very client based, up through his time on Halo, and turning that into, I think, one of the most important but undervalued skills or undertaught skills, which is just like selling ideas, which I think people think selling is such a dirty word. I don't know, maybe not everybody. People in a creative field, I think, look at like sales as something not good. Or being too salesy.
It's polluted by people that are too salesy.
Yeah, but like that skill of communicating an idea and like how ideas are formed and communicated and
inspire,
how you motivate other. Yeah,
Steve Jobs was really good at that too, right? Like that was like his superpower.
Master. Yeah, his superpower. Yeah, you would watch one of those keynotes and you'd be like, I need to get that.
Yeah, like, I think they had a name for it, right? It was like
it's the reality distortion field.
I love it.
I've been in there before.
Yeah, and you have to keep it on. Like you have to keep the reality distortion field powered to like get you through that desert that
That's
we
right.
talked about. And also and being able to handle the room with those people. Like and not, I'm not speaking negatively of the people in there. It's everyone has gotten there because they're very motivated. They have a lot of opinions, and they're good at what they do.
That's right.
They're smart.
Yeah.
And you put a lot of people in a room like that, you have to be able to like.
It's a combination of a bunch of skills, which I think is fairly rare to get in one place. Yeah, that creative leadership is difficult. Well, cool. Thank you, everybody, for spending another hour with Aaron and I. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We certainly did, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Fourth Curtain Podcast. To get a peek at upcoming episodes or to send in questions to the show, visit our site at thefourthcurtain.com. And be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.